Should explain the adornment on my upper lip. It's Movember, and our work's quite into it. And there were two reactions in our household when I realized I was preaching on the 30th of November, the very end of the month. My wife thought, oh no, you're going to have a mustache in front of everyone. And I was like, yes, I get to show it in all its glory. Yeah, it's coming off tomorrow. Yeah, our wedding anniversary falls in the middle of November, and every year it's just mixed bag. I would say it's fantastic, and the romance just is up another notch. My wife would say otherwise. Anyway, so I am finishing off the Hope series that we've been on for the last couple months. And we've had talks from David, and then we had Scott Bell recently as well, and they've covered various aspects of hope, very fitting for the season that we're in coming into Christmas. And we talked about how hope is such an encouragement. It lights the way, how we find hope in God's Word, and how we can cast our cares on Jesus. And most recently, we talked about sharing the hope that we have as well, based from Peter. What I'm going to be talking about today is hope in the restorer. And I'm going to start by telling a bit of a story. So last year, I got influenza A pretty bad, probably the worst I've ever had it. And I was just bedridden for a week, fevers and not well at all. And when you're bedridden for a week, you can end up in some interesting places on YouTube. The algorithm and the pathway that it leads you in, I ended up learning about boat restoration, of all things. Not really where I had intended. And I learned about a boat called Tally Ho and a man who was restoring it. So I'll tell you a little bit about Tally Ho. If we can get the slide of Tally Ho, she was built in 1909 in England by a famous yacht designer called Albert Strange, and was quite famous in 1927, won the Fastnet race. And that's an open ocean race, one of the big open ocean races in the world, about 1,100 kilometers, and of 15 boats to set out at the start of that journey. It was only one of two to return. The others didn't sink, but they pulled pin pretty quick with the stormy conditions. And so it won that race, this amazing boat back in its day. And then it had a few decades of ocean cruising and found itself wrecked on a reef in Rarotonga, of all places. That was in the 1960s. From this point was salvaged and rebuilt, and spent a few different jobs doing fishing and the like, but then was pretty much neglected and brought up on land and left in this state for many years, and fell into quite serious disrepair, so much so that in the early 2000s they thought of scrapping it. It was rescued by the Albert Strange Association, and then sold in 2017 for $1 to this boat builder, this guy here. And he spent the next 7 years of his life restoring this boat. And so how he did it and how he funded it was he videoed the whole process. And so I came across these videos. There's about 250 videos, all like 15 to 30 minutes long. And it was amazing. He had like 500,000 subscribers and 147 million views. And so that money that he gained off YouTube helped fund this. This is him seeing it for the first time, and he was second-guessing his decision because it was rotten inside and out. But he slowly started working on it, and he started restoring the pieces of wood bit by bit. It was pretty much all hand done. And took seven long years. This amazing process. There's so much of the boat that was rotten. They weren't able to actually keep much of the original, but redid the whole interior like that, and eventually put the timber around the outside, made it seaworthy, and it came up looking really beautifully. They painted it, and over time, just built this boat to its former glory. The inside of the cabin was pretty sparkly at the end of that. And then he describes taking it out for its first voyage on the ocean when that wind hit that sail, and this sort of magic feeling after all that hard work. And quite a majestic boat under sail, all those sails catching the wind. And you might be wondering, what's this all about? But doesn't it reflect life in some ways? That we can start off full of hope and a bright future and new, and then we can hit a reef in life, so to speak, or fall into disrepair. And we've got a God who's a bit like this boat builder, who wants to restore us and to rebuild the broken parts of our life and bring something beautiful out of the ashes of our life. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the key verse that I'm going to be using is from Romans 8:28. And it goes like this. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Now, the context of this verse previously in the chapter is talking about the hardships of this world. It actually describes the world groaning as if in childbirth, and people groaning in the same way, that there's just something wrong in the world. But this hope we have looking forward to a time when things will be renewed and things will be restored. This hope to come. And it's a beautiful verse that God is working all things for good. But I have heard it used in ways that could be a bit twisted, actually. And some people interpret it that God causes all things for our good. And understandably, they think God is all-powerful, and so he is control of everything that happens. And so you might hear this verse shared at a funeral. I can count the number of horrible things that I've heard happen and been a part of, and the tragedies that happen, and people might share this verse and say, God is causing this for our good. And it's like, how is God causing these bad things for our good? How is God behind that? Is God behind that? And I think that those that would interpret the verse in that way might be in for quite a revelation when they came face to face with God. And he says, goodness, you've misrepresented me so dearly. I wasn't wanting that pain and that suffering. I want the opposite. And you've gone and attributed me to these hard things. And so we're going to unpack this verse a little bit. God brings good out of the bad things that happen, but I don't believe he causes the bad things to happen. Which brings us to the question, why do bad things happen? Big question. And it's complicated too. Why is there suffering in the world? Why did that child get cancer? Why did that drunk driver hit that mum? Why did that dad get cancer and their 10-year-old daughter is singing at their funeral? These things that we come across in life or have been a part of in life that can shake us to our core. Where is God in all of that? Did he cause it? What's he doing in that? These are big questions, and they're daunting questions. It's daunting to try and talk about them in front of, a couple hundred people. But I think we need to have a degree of confidence in answering it, because there's a lot of people that can get turned away from God, saying, I'm never going to follow a God who runs and oversees this world when this happens and that happens and this has happened to me. And it can really put people off following the God that we serve. So they're good questions to try and answer. And try and answer it, there's a few different aspects. We live in a broken world with broken people. There's a big aspect to it. And the nature of God is love. And so the thing about love is that for my child, if I want to be in a loving relationship with him, I can't force him to love me. He needs to offer that to me voluntarily. And in Revelation 3:20, it says, "Here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me." And God's not going to force relationship on us. God, in his love, gives us the option to be a part of that. And with that free will, we can choose to go another way. And so we have free agency. And that can be a large reason as to why bad things happen if we choose to drink and drive and maim someone or maim ourselves. Or people do horrible things to people all the time. But it's not just us with free will. There's angels and demons, and we see that the fallen angels chose to go another way. There's spiritual beings with free will that influence the world. There's two kingdoms at play out there, a kingdom of light and a kingdom of darkness. 1 John 1:5 says, "God is light. In him there is no darkness at all." There's a stark contrast, a God of light, a kingdom of light, and then a kingdom of darkness that is influencing the world and causing suffering, having an influence on the bad things that happen. We live in a war zone, and there's an interesting verse a series of verses in the Bible that talk in Daniel about what goes on behind the scenes sometimes, and it's a fascinating insight. A little bit like almost Frank Peretti books. Has anyone read Frank Peretti, This Present Darkness? I suspect that's closer to reality than a lot of us realize. This is kind of what is going on in Daniel. Daniel's praying, and there's actually this war between angels and demons, these spiritual forces in the background, and that delays the answer to his prayer. So there's things going on in the background in this war zone. There's also this concept of the now and not yet, that not everything that's happening in the world is God's purpose and God's design. That when Jesus came to the world and he died on the cross, he defeated the enemy, but we haven't seen yet the fullness of that picture. It's a interesting concept. It's a little bit like World War II, and historians say that on D-Day, when they stormed the beaches, that was when the war was actually won. That was a pivotal moment. But there were skirmishes for many months to come until the actual sort of thing was armistice, and when the war was sort of officially done and dusted. So in that in-between stage, there was the victory that they're living in now, but it had not yet quite been finished. And we live in that in a spiritual sense. Jesus has won the victory, but not everything that we see is according to his plan. We haven't seen that yet. So there's these different factors at play in regards to pain and suffering in the world. And it's a big topic that's complicated, but I always think one of the most important things we can do is look at Jesus. And we talk a lot about Jesus here, and it's really important that if we want to know the heart of God and where does God sit on pain and suffering, then let's look at Jesus. The Bible is very clear. Colossians 2:9, in Christ all the fullness of the deity lives in bodily form. It's saying all the fullness of who God is lived in Jesus Christ. Hebrews 1:3, the Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being. So Jesus is the exact representation of who God is. He says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And Scott Bell a few weeks ago, he said how Jesus didn't come to change the Father's mind about humanity, he came to change humanity's mind about the Father. And that when you look at the day and age that Jesus was born into, the Pharisees and the religious people of at that time, they had a bit of a skewed image of who God was really like. They didn't expect Jesus. Jesus had to come and show them what God was really like. And when we look at Jesus and the life that he lived, he came to alleviate pain and he came to alleviate suffering. When he kind of describes his mission in Luke 8, he quotes Isaiah. And this is Jesus speaking. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he's anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." So that was Jesus' mission on earth, to alleviate the pain, alleviate the suffering, where there was blindness to give vision, where there were sick people to bring healing, where there was oppression to bring liberty. And that's God's heart in the face of the pain and suffering that we see in this world. So if we come back to Romans 8:28, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So it's not saying that he causes all things, but in all the things that do happen, he is going to be in there working, trying to bring good out of that situation, trying to help and alleviate and bring his purposes about. The Greek word for all things that he works for, working for, is kind of coming alongside, working with what you've got to bring about God's will in that situation. So we see that absolutely horrible, bad things happen in the world, but we've got a God who's wanting to work with us and restore those broken things. And so if we come to Tally Ho, I think part of it captured me for the beautiful image of the restoring this boat to its former glory. But I did a bit of sailing growing up as well, and I can quite clearly remember that the very first time I sat in a little dinghy, it was probably about the length of this stage here, and I grew up, we were sailing Lake Wakatipu, and the yacht club was on the other side of this kind of stretch of water, so you had to sail across to the yacht club. And I hopped in the back of my friend's dinghy, and that first moment that the wind caught the sail, it was just magical. I'm used to a boat with noise and a propeller and that type of thing, but this quiet, this kind of thrust of the wind. And so I was kind of hooked from that moment onwards. I got into opti sailing. If anyone knows what an optimist is like, it's kind of the size of, it probably looks like this stage really. It's like a bathtub with a sail. And we had plastic ones that, being young, we did turn into bumper boats from time to time. And there was lots of capsizing, lots of fun. My friends sort of worked through the P and Starling classes. But one of my mates got a catamaran, a Hobie Cat, and that was fun. That was one of the ones where it gets up on one side and you're hooked into a harness and leaning right out, and you just fly. You'd go so quick. So that was a lot of excitement. And there was one time we were sailing, and again, being young and dumb, there was this incredible gust that came down the lake. We actually saw it coming, and there were all the smaller yachts upwind of us, and we saw them just starting capsizing, and there were trees, literally trees, that were falling down along the edge of the lake. And we sort of looked at each other, and we just sort of pull in the main sheet and lean out further, thinking, oh, we got this. The wind hit us, and I got flung, because when the boat capsizes and you're strapped into the kind of tip of the mast, you really get flung quite a long way. The mast broke. We tried to flip it, and then we broke the hull while we were trying to flip it, and we slowly drifted about a kilometre back until we upside down boat sinking hit the shore. But sailing, it's a great amount of fun. And why am I telling you that? Well, I think the interesting thing about tally ho is that maybe we identify with that boat in some ways. And the good news, the hope that we have, is that we've got a master craftsman working on our behalf. It's just like that boat builder that's committed to us. He's not going to give up and turn his back on us when it gets hard, but he's committed to restoring us and rebuilding us and bringing good out of all the mess and the hardship that gets thrown our way. And that's a great hope that we can hang on to. And maybe like tally ho, you feel like you're stuck on a reef somewhere, stuck in a pain when you can't get past this loop of pain that you just can't come forward from. And the encouragement from the Bible would be Psalm 68, 5-6. It describes God as a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families. He leads out the prisoners with singing. So where you might not have a father on earth anymore, or where that father has really lacked in places, God is offering to be your father. Where you may be a widow, God is the one who wants to step in and defend you, step in on your behalf. Where there's loneliness, he wants to bring you in amongst family and community. And where you're stuck like a prisoner, he wants to lead you forth with joy and singing. He's an amazing father. Maybe like tally ho, you identify with that picture that he's up on stilts out of the water, and time's got away on you. You're past it. And the Bible says for you, Isaiah 43, 18-19, do not call to mind the former things. Pay no attention to the things of old. Behold, I am about to do something new. Even now it is coming. Do you not see it? Indeed, I will make a way in the wilderness and streams in the desert. And so perhaps there's people here today where you were feeling past it and age and time has caught up on you. God is a God of doing new things. And where there seems no way, where there's wilderness and no path forward, God can make a way. Or where it's a desert and it's dry all around you, God can bring streams of living water. Maybe like tally ho, you feel forgotten in your suffering. You think, where is God in all this? Where are other people in all this suffering? It's easy to feel forgotten in our suffering. Again, from Isaiah, I would say to you, Isaiah 43:1, but now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, he who formed you, Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. The beautiful hope we have in God, the amazing Father that he is that we're not forgotten in his eyes, that he knows your name, he knows what you've been through, and he calls you, and he redeems you. He brings liberty to the places that have been bound up. And I think one of the beautiful things about God bringing good out of the pain and suffering that we've been through, so often he uses our experiences to bless other people around us, to bless people that are going through similar experiences that we have. You see it in, say, AA, and the people that have been and walked that journey can be such a help to other people. I know for us, the challenging seasons of our lives, once we've walked through that, we can be drawn to those going through the same things and can really help to guide them through that. And that's true across the board in many different circumstances. People that have battled with grief can then help others through their process of grief, and so on and so forth. And it's God turning this horrible situation into something that's quite beautiful for someone else who needs that support. The thing with restoration and God redeeming the broken things in this world and it being a now and not yet is that not everything gets fully restored this side of eternity. That there will be some things that are broken that carry on, and we won't see fully resolved. We won't see that full healing until they're walking the streets of heaven. And it's beautiful in Revelation 22, 1-5. It gives us a glimpse of this future hope that we have. And it says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the former things have passed away.' And the one seated on the throne said, 'Behold, I am making all things new.'" And it's such a strong and powerful hope that we have, that while we're here on earth and encountering the hardships of life, we do have that one on our side, the loving Father who wants to work with us and help us through these situations to restore the broken things. But then we have this future hope as well. There's coming a day with no more tears, no more death, no more mourning or crying or pain. And I'm just so thankful to God that that's his heart, that he cares about us in such a way that he wants this for us. It's such a beautiful thing. And as we come to the end of the Hope series, I wanted this morning not to speak too long, but just give us a bit of a chance to reflect and take a moment with God. We'll have a little bit of a song soon as well. But why don't we pray? God, we're grateful for who you are, that you're a God who doesn't cause the pain and hardship, Lord, but you're actively working to help us through it. We're grateful for your Son who came and showed us your nature. Where there's those that are mourning, you bring comfort. Where there were those that were outcast and lepers, Jesus would go to them and meet with them and heal them. That you're a God who's not afraid to go that extra mile and reach out to us. You've just got such an amazing heart for your people, God, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I pray, Lord, that today we would capture that we'd be able to see you at work in our lives and the hard things of our lives, that we'd see your hand at play. Thank you that we're not forgotten in your eyes. We're not too old and past it or decrepit in your eyes. But you're a God who sees us, who names us, you call us out, and you make new things in our life. So we're so grateful for that, God. And we just pray, Lord, as we lead into this Christmas season, that we'd be so mindful of your goodness and the amazing thing that you did come into earth for us. And I thank you for the hope that brings, the hope you brought. And I just want to give a chance as well. If you don't know Jesus, if you haven't given your heart to God. Or maybe you did a long time ago and you've been walking a different path. I just want to give you the chance to respond. God's not going to force his way into your life. He stands at the door and knocks. And he's there. You know he's there when he's knocking. But he's not going to force himself on you. But I can tell you that following Jesus is the best thing you'll ever do in life. It's not easy always, but it's good. So if you want to decide to follow Jesus today, I'm going to give you an opportunity just to respond shortly. I would say, though, that he does want your all. He's not a self-help guru. He's not like a diet for the soul that you just kind of pick and choose from. No, he's Lord of all, creator of the universe, and he wants our all. So I wonder now, while every head is bowed and every eye is closed, if you do want to give your heart to God, could you just be real brave and give me a wave? I just want to be able to identify you. I'm not going to embarrass you or call you out, but I just want to be able to put a Bible in your hand at the end of the service. So